Alright YouTube, so we are back of course with some Final Fantasy VII Remake content, and whether or not the first game in the remake project has a day or night cycle is something people have been wondering for quite a while. It's a topic I've never really given my thoughts on. I've definitely never done a video, and I'm pretty damn certain I never even talked about it, even in a smaller capacity, in like a news roundup video or something like that. I don't think I've talked about it at all, so I thought we'd do that today. So for starters, 100% we know that the game does switch from day to night. We just don't know if it's like an internal clock thing, and it goes from day to night as time passes, or if they're set pieces. So some examples we have are the Marlene and Tifa reveal from the E3 trailer. We're on the steps of the 7th Heaven Bar, and it's clearly nighttime. But if we hop over to the Tokyo Game Show trailer at the very beginning, we see the Watchmen of Fate attacking the 7th Heaven Bar, or at least the Sector 7 slums, and we can see that it's clearly daytime. And also, if you look out the window behind Cloud while he's sitting at the bar, it appears to be daytime in Sector 7. You then have pretty much everything from the Wall Market segment being portrayed at night. But then you have this brief clip of Tifa working out at the Wall Market gym, and if you look at the doorway behind him, the door's open, it's clearly daytime. And with the intro movie itself for Final Fantasy VII Remake, we see the city during the daytime, but then it switches over to Aerith in the alleyway, and it's nighttime. So what we have is between some cinematics and some gameplay, the gameplay being the Wall Market stuff, we see the same location being portrayed in both night and day. But again, we don't know in what capacity. We don't know if they are forced set pieces where it's forced to be daytime, forced to be nighttime, or if time is moving by itself. Now, my personal take on this is I feel like the times of day are kind of set, like they're determined, you cannot change them, because to me, I think the game's sort of on rails. I think it's a kind of linear game. I did a whole video about this. One of the most obvious examples that we can give is something we already talked about, the cutscenes. For example, we have the Sector 1 reactor exploding. That happens at nighttime, right? That's a cutscene, that's a cinematic, it's something they developed and created themselves. I'm sure they didn't do every single cinematic in multiple different ways, depending on the time of day. A scene like the Sector 1 reactor exploding at nighttime is a lot more impactful than if it exploded during the daytime. You see more of what's happening. You see more of the explosion. Another example I can give is the train graveyard. This is obviously meant to be a spooky location. You have the creaky metal, the wind howling, children's laughter in the distance. A less impactful location if it's daytime. You also got to factor in that most of the slums of Midgar is covered by the upper plate, so they're almost always in perpetual darkness. The reason why something like Wall Market can have a night and day cycle is because Sector 6 was destroyed. There is no plate. And the reason why the Sector 5 slums and the Sector 7 slums, which is where Tifa's bar is, the 7th Heaven Bar, can have sunlight is because they are obviously adjacent to Sector 6, which has no plate. And actually in the fight with Root, if you pay attention to the background, kind of upwards in the sky, you can actually see the destroyed plate of Sector 6. And the Sector 6 plate being destroyed is why the slums look like it does. That's why there's debris everywhere. And when it comes to a day or night cycle for the first game in the Final Fantasy VII Remake project, it may not even matter anyway, because most of the game, according to the original, should take place in the slums, which is going to be almost always dark anyway. Another example I can give is when it comes to the Wall Market segment, we see with the Tokyo Game Show trailer that there are fireworks going on in the background. That's not going to happen at daytime, right? You're going to have to come to Wall Market during nighttime only for all the Don Corneo stuff. I think what we're seeing when it comes to Tifa working out at the gym in Wall Market during the daytime is the ability to backtrack. We get to a segment of the game where it's daytime, we probably have a little bit of free room, you don't have to just push forward with the story, you can probably travel back over to Sector 6 slums, go to Wall Market, and do the mini games and things. We also have the highway chasing, which we got from the theme song trailer. We see that it's clearly happening at nighttime, just like the original game. But then we also got that key art of the group at the end of the highway overlooking the area beyond Midgard during a sunrise, which is the iconic shot from the original game. So when it comes to this key art, I think it's pretty obvious they're going to want to recreate that scene, so it has to happen during the sunrise, which tells me that time's going to be forced in the remake. At least when it comes to this first game, because the sequels are potentially going to be maybe some form of open world. Once we get outside of Midgar, it should have an overworld to explore, traveling from location to location. Similar to the overworld of the original game, time should work differently in those games. It should pass like it would in any open world game. But those are just my thoughts on it. We could hop into Final Fantasy VII Remake, and there could be a standard day-to-night cycle like a lot of other games have, and maybe something like the Wall Market stuff with Don Corneo, maybe like when you have that quest, like, hey, go to Wall Market, get the dress and stuff, maybe you cannot start that quest line with Don Corneo until it is nighttime, so maybe you gotta go sleep at an inn until nighttime. Like, that's a thing that happens in some games. So there could be a regular night-to-day cycle, but my thoughts are that it's gonna be a pretty linear game, and time should be forced. So I'm going to pass it off to you guys, of course. We haven't talked about this yet on my channel, so what are your thoughts on the day-to-night cycle of Final Fantasy VII Remake? Do you think it's going to be forced set pieces, or time will pass like it does in kind of other games? So leave your thoughts and more in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and want to stay updated with more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @dashingdavid. I'm a Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.